You're listening to PODWOM, Podcast Without Measure, the podcast edition of the official e-zine for the International Size Acceptance Association. In Austin, Texas, here is your host, Alan Stedham.
Hello and welcome back to PODWOM. We'll have a special show for you today. I'll be interviewing Robyn McGee. She is the author of Hungry for More, a Keeping It Real guide for Black women's weight and body image. Now, Robyn currently works as an advisor in the Women's Studies and Behavioral Science departments at California State University, Dominguez Hills, and she frequently writes and lectures on women's issues and popular culture. Joining us from Los Angeles is Robyn McGee.
Good morning, Robyn.
Good morning, Alan.
So last night I just finished up reading up Hungry for More, your new book.
Yes.
And I must say it was a good read. You know, it's got a good flow to it, and I think that it's I think the average person will be able to read it and understand it. So that's certainly to your credit.
Thank you.
Tell us just a little bit about the overall, what you were trying to accomplish in your book.
Okay, well, as you know, I wrote the book because my sister Kathy passed away as a result of weight loss surgery. 4 days after she had her gastric bypass, she passed away from the infection. So, I was devastated. My whole family was, of course. But I knew that Kathy had a problem with her weight her whole life, and I recognized that other women do too. So I wanted to take, my personal loss and find some universal truth and maybe help another woman, another person really, that might be struggling.
That's always wonderful to take something so tragic and negative and try and turn it around for a positive for someone else. I definitely commend you for that.
I tell everybody it's been a bittersweet experience. That's the best way I can describe it.
Sure. Now, the focus on this book, it's right on the cover it says, a Keeping It Real guide for Black women on weight and body image. So what gave you the idea to focus specifically on something for African American women?
That's a good question. I'm myself African American, and I know best how we struggle with weight and health issues. So I wanted to concentrate on that, but I also wanted to present a truth that would appeal and apply to all of us. Right,
and I understand, I'm in an interracial marriage myself. My wife's African American, and so it was kind of, parts were amusing to me to read because it's like, some of it I understood and had actually seen, different attitudes and different, and then some I actually learned some from your book. So, just in terms of I would have never imagined that hair would keep someone from exercising.
Everyone asks me about hair, But, it's kind of a truth that a lot of women don't want to really work out every day because they don't want to sweat out their hair or wax or weave or whatever it is. But, my question is, we need to come to a point where we can accept people for who they are.
Right.
And health is the number one consideration.
Definitely.
So if you have to wear your hair naturally, maybe we need to accept that this woman is healthy.
Right, exactly. And I really appreciated a number of things about the book. One of the things that I found interesting, you give a really detailed history on African American actresses and role models.
Yes.
It's very interesting to see how that's changed over time. People don't really think so much about the mammy roles anymore, but that's where things started Hollywood-wise.
Exactly.
And then to come all the way to, the role models of today being actually considerably more diverse, from everything from Queen Latifah to Oprah to have you. But also I found it very interesting and a little amusing of how there's, the hoe image that's come about that and how that's being portrayed as healthy when generally speaking it's anything but. And to see that actually touched on and written on, you're not going to find that in a whole lot of publications. So in that respect I did find it interesting and daring and a bit amusing to read about that. And these things need to be talked about.
Yes, exactly. Because, we have a whole generation of young women coming up of all races that have been inundated with MTV and ET and the Internet and, magazines that say this is the ideal woman.
Right.
This kind of tall and slender and energetic woman that kind of, gets the guy, supposedly, in the end, and this is what young women are looking up to.
Right.
And, if you don't fit that image, a lot of young women, because I work at a university, as you know, so a lot of women feel they have to take drastic measures,
Yes.
To look like this, to get the guy. And my message to them is, first of all, further your education as best you can. And I'm not saying necessarily go to college, but just, feed your mind.
Right. Absolutely.
And better health will follow.
And then you also pointed out the double standard of, look at all the role models of, of fat men who
Yes.
are perfectly accepted, Biggie Smalls, and I was even thinking all the way back to, Run DMC and all that. There's never a word said against them.
Never. I know that Barry White, as you may remember him
Yes.
as I do, he was always the sex symbol.
Yes.
And, he was a big guy, this deep, smoky voice, and we loved him.
Yeah.
Luther Vandross.
Yep.
They used to hear stories that women were throwing their panties at Luther at his biggest,
Absolutely.
So there is a double standard.
And so I think it's, it's good. Again, it's all good just to talk about it, and then also, to talk about ways that people can be healthier. One of the things that I was particularly interested in is towards the end, you've got the chapter on It Takes a Village and a New Nutritional Vision. With the program that Tracy Thomas is doing about the salad bar for schools.
Yes.
And I found that fascinating.
Yes, just tremendous what she's doing. And she started in Santa Monica, which is the wealthy area of L.A., getting salad bars in those schools. And she's really worked hard to get them into, so-called inner-city schools.
Right.
Where maybe we don't have the resources that someone else would have. And her goal, as I say in the book, is to have a salad bar in all schools. Because, we've taken the physical education out of schools now, too.
Oh, yeah. We could talk for an hour on that.
You know what I'm saying? So there's kind of a cause and effect going on here.
Yes.
But if we can present children with vegetables and fruits as a choice in the cafeteria, that's a step towards the right direction, I feel.
Well, I definitely agree with that. It's because, as you know, ESA has the whole respect, fitness, health approach that, kind of, I felt a kinship between what we were saying as in terms of the message of you've got to have self-acceptance there, you've got to have activity, and then you've got to learn how to make healthy food choices. And I think, to be able to get that message out there and to get it to specific communities, that's so important. And it doesn't matter, race or gender or what have you. Everybody needs to hear it, but to be able to create a vehicle of interest to different communities, to be able to get the word out, that's definitely something that, is worth doing. And I think that that's something that Hungry for More accomplishes. I also really liked the do's and the don'ts that you had, and I want to read them real quick and then we can discuss them, which is, this was regarding for parents of fat children or families who have fat children or teens. And the rules that you suggested for don'ts and do's is don't tease or berate your child for being fat.
Right.
Don't use food as reward or punishment. Do not chain or lock the refrigerator. That took me back a little bit. It's like, people do that.
They do.
And then avoid buying or cooking so much that you wind up throwing away leftovers. And I was like, I do that.
No, we all do. We all do. Being in this, land of plenty, it's just we just buy so much, we cook so much, and we just feel nothing really to throw food away.
Right, and you think that you're doing good getting enough at the time, or you've got the money at the time to go and buy the groceries, but then the trick would be don't make too much.
Exactly.
Ration out what you got there.
That's right. And just if we're talking about healthy eating and healthy choices, we have to really take a look at how much we eat.
Right.
Not just what we're eating, but how much we're eating.
Right, and you touched on a real good point in there regarding the eating disorders. There's a whole section where you really expound on eating disorders, and it's fascinating. It's something that I learned a long time ago is that with eating disorders, and this is why a lot of eating disorders clinics say that dieting often leads into eating disordered behavior, because you start losing that relationship with food.
Exactly.
And then suddenly you're obsessing over food, and then it can go to the extreme with the compulsions of you're not even tasting the food anymore. It's just it's some type of comfort, or you're doing it to occupy your time, or you're depressed, or what have you. Right. And it's so important, and all the healthy things kind of all come together in that if you learn when you're full, if you stop to enjoy your food and you're eating healthy foods that you can actually enjoy, then you're going to take time to savor that food, and you're going to actually reestablish a relationship with food and reestablish a relationship with your body, really.
Exactly. And I make the point there, too, that, you know, there's a disconnect with a lot of people between who they are and their bodies. You know, some of the research is showing that people who have been sexually abused use weight or, you know, eating as a way of smothering, as a way of covering up. So to me, we have to really get to the source of, you know, what's really going on in our own hearts and minds.
Right. Well, it's about being who you are instead of what someone expects you to be or what you feel you need to be in order to protect yourself from something else. It's like we need to clear those barriers out of the way.
You know, it's not easy because we're inundated with the McDonald's messages, and Burger King on the one hand, you know, but then on the other hand, we see these skinny models in every magazine that you pick up.
Right.
So, you know, there's a disconnect there.
Well, definitely, and to McDonald's credit, they have actually tried to introduce some healthier foods into theirs. I mean, I understand you've got the whole process thing going on, so it's never going to be 100%, but, you know, at least some of them are starting to get the message, and they're starting to try and make some positive changes. But yeah, generally speaking, when it comes to the fast food, you know, I've even noticed personally, if I got to go pick up something on the fly, I'm noticing that it's being prepared less well than even, you know, in years past. So, I mean, you can actually get sick on fast food now.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, there's definitely a market. So McDonald's is smart to say that, hey, people want to eat lighter sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a market for that kind of a menu. So, but of course, their bottom line is hamburgers and fries.
Sure, and that's what's going to draw people in.
Yeah.
Generally speaking.
And then, you know, I want to make the point that you can eat hamburgers and fries.
Right.
You know, occasionally. You know.
I actually like hamburgers and fries more when I make them myself. Actually, my wife makes marvelous fries.
You know, I love hamburgers. I love pork chops and ribs. I love all that.
But it's grilled or what have you.
Yeah, I just can't eat it every day. That's
exactly.
Just, you know.
Well, and it takes that variety. That's the thing. We have to be able to, you know, I find personally, if I don't get vegetables, my body actually craves them now.
Exactly.
And we need those things. And, you know, you've got, you know, people who are vegans and vegetarians, but you can get protein sources too.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily have to be meat.
Exactly.
And so, you know, really there's no excuse. If you can do take a little bit of time to do a little bit of research, you can eat healthy.
Yes, you can. And we need to introduce it into the schools as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're taught how to spell, we're taught math, but we're not really taught how to eat.
Right. I agree with that entirely. And I think, you know, I think it's going to become inevitable that there's going to have to be an organized response, just like Tracy Thomas organizing the salad bars. I think that there needs to be an organized response to the lack of physical education, the decrease in amount of time being dedicated to physical education, because we already know that down the line, if you don't make it important, because when you and I were growing up, it was there.
That's right.
And it did not prevent us from learning.
I agree.
You know, we didn't have, you know, we had standardized tests.
That's right.
Not the same standardized test, but we had standardized testing, and I don't think you or I are any the less intelligent for having had physical education.
That's right. You're right.
And
exactly.
So, you know, but it's going to take an organized effort, and it's also going to take, you know, going against bureaucracy.
Yes, exactly. And, you know, we're in a mode now where we're reacting. So we see, you know, so many kids with diabetes or heart, we're reacting.
And so much of that comes from sedentary lifestyle.
Exactly.
And the sedentary lifestyle is actually encouraged by some of these technological changes, but then if you just have something where you can obviously do some good, you know, with the physical education, I don't even remember how much it used to be, but I think it used to be like an hour in the morning or whenever you had it, and it was no big deal.
No, we used to have what they call calisthenics.
Right.
With jumping jacks and, you know, toe touches and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was at least an hour, I would say, sure.
I remember having time to, like, play, you know, mini soccer games and things like that in the afternoons and what have you. You know, that was a part of things.
Yeah, recess. You know, it's amazing because I went to a middle school here in L.A. for what they call recess. Because when I was young, recess was tetherball and kickball. And, but recess to them was gathered around the snack bar, which they do have in these schools, kind of talking and laughing. Nobody was running. Nobody was playing.
So recess is just it's relaxation rather than activity.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So the whole definition has changed, and granted, we don't have as many physical jobs as there used to be, and technology has made life easier on one aspect. And having computers and internet, you don't have to travel as much as you used to. However, no one adapted.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I'm seeing is there really wasn't any type of vision for, okay, here's a long-term plan. Okay, if there's going to be these increases in technologies that we legitimately need, how do we stay active?
Exactly.
And I think we're seeing some of that. And then on top of it, when that started, and I'm just doing kind of a train of thought here as we speak, when things started changing from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and we started having these technological and job changes and the like, then when people did start to gain weight from more sedentary lifestyles, instead of just hammering on the dieting actually made things worse. And that's something that you touched on in the book as well.
Exactly. Dieting, depriving yourself puts the body into starvation mode. And when you do start to eat again, you just, add more weight. Mm-hmm. So dieting is not the answer at all. But then again, neither is, in my mind, the surgery, that's not the answer either.
Right.
I mean, there's a middle ground, there's a middle ground where we can learn to eat healthy.
Exactly. And, one thing that I'll say was when reading the book, I'm glad that you're saying very much about the stance. That was about one of the only areas that I had sort of a question while I was reading is, you do a good job, especially towards the end of the book, of telling people, okay, here are alternatives, consider these things before you have the surgery. Yes. And, I think that's very important, and you even included, fat acceptance in there, and, but it's very important to get that concrete message out there, because we've got so many doctors and so many people that are putting out the message just saying, hey, just come in and have the surgery, it'll take care of this, it's the miracle cure of today, and it's not the miracle cure of today.
No.
And
very dangerous, it's very risky, it's high risk.
Yes.
I don't profess to tell other people what to do with their bodies,
right.
But I get the question all the time, would you have the surgery? Me personally?
Right.
And me personally, no, I would not.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of the pain factor, and I don't think people really think about that much. You're
Once
being
it's not
cut,
put forward,
and you've got to heal, of course, and
right.
then, you need additional surgeries after the bypass because you've got excess skin.
Right.
Women have told me they've lost their hair.
Mm-hmm.
They can't eat like they used to. Food gets caught in their throat.
Right. There's so many things that they don't tell you about.
Yeah, so I want to put the information out there, because if you do decide to go that route, please know what you're getting into. Because my sister Kathy really didn't know.
Right. Yeah, that came across very much so, and I was actually amazed when I saw that. In her case, a cardiologist actually gave the okay, even knowing that she had a pre-existing condition?
Yes. Yes, that's right. And, in her situation, they have what they call clearance doctors.
Right.
The actual surgeon and then the cardiologist that examined her. So in my mind, they just basically took a chance, hoping, that everything would go okay. And, of course, it didn't. Mm-hmm. So the message I have also is that, do not put your full trust in doctors. Mm-hmm. Doctors can and do make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And, the guy that operated on my sister, he's still practicing medicine. Mm-hmm. And my sister's passed away. And there's that old saying, doctors bury their mistakes.
Yes. Well,
the lawyer told me very clearly this was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was a fatal mistake. Nothing less, nothing more.
Well, that's something I think that, EASE is going to continue to work with the community about, is that, there is a sort of at least for years, there was a sort of a blind trust in doctors. And I mean, that was a well-earned reputation years ago.
Yes.
But now, my impression from every bit of experience and every bit of research that we've done is that doctors are kind of getting indoctrinated in medical school that, okay, fat is a disease, fat is bad, fat is this, you need to lose weight no matter what. And there's not really any type of understanding instilled in most doctors. I won't say all, because there are some understanding doctors out there. But too many doctors are just saying, here, have the surgery. Have you had the surgery? Would you consider the surgery? And it's almost like automatic. They don't even want to, necessarily even deal with fat patients, and they haven't been trained to deal with fat patients. So they want to get them thin as soon as possible, or basically have them out of their hair. If you can't lose weight, oh, sorry, I can't help you.
Right, exactly. And I think, now it's a big market. It's a big moneymaker now.
Yes.
So that's a component of it, too. But Dr. Phoebe, who does many of these types of surgeries, he told me himself that, we don't know a lot about obesity. We don't know why people are obese, really.
Right.
Why some people can eat and not be obese, and why others cannot.
Exactly.
So there's kind of a missing link in science and research that we don't know. So
Exactly.
we're just fixing so-called fixing what we see.
Well, yeah, and it's sort of the old, for lack of a better way to put it, there's still sort of a playing God element in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's malicious. I just think that, I think that there's a lot of people out there, a lot of doctors who are genuinely trying to help, but when you get into biology, it's so complex anyway.
Yeah.
And there's so many different, because we literally vary person by person, and genetic makeup by genetic makeup. I even read a week ago in the BBC that they're finding a possible causality relationship between foods that turn on and turn off genes, which could explain a great deal.
Yes.
About
and,
why.
A few of the doctors I talked to said that, you can be 100 pounds overweight and be what they consider healthy. Healthy meaning, no diabetes, no hypertension, no cancer. So you can be healthy. So it's not really the weight.
Right.
That is,
it's the lifestyle.
Exactly.
That's something that that we entirely concur on, is that there's too many people out there that have been given mixed messages for a long time that say, okay, well, BMI of 30 is obese, but before 1998, it wasn't. Before 1998, when the National Institutes of Health redefined the standards of what was overweight and what was obese, suddenly half of America became overweight or obese. And a lot of people then are like, wait, what? Yesterday I was not overweight. And so, and then they continue to just hammer and hammer away at these. And then I think that we've seen a general disconnect between the public just saying, well, fine, make up your minds, and then they had that whole thing with the CDC earlier this year where they said, oh, we're sorry, it wasn't 400,000, it's actually more like 28,000 that are dying per year, and people are like, well, what is it?
I include that story in my book. Sort of, and the unfortunate part about that is the organization, the Consumers Freedom, where they've kind of, they've gone the way other extreme in my view,
right?
Well, that's what we're faced with.
Well, exactly, and they're a pro-business group, and they've got their element to go at, and the thing that I see is the most important thing is to get the information out there on what is healthy, and I think that's what people are lacking. What is the right thing to do? How can I best be healthy? You say I'm supposed to be dieting, but if I diet, I'm going to gain more weight, and this person over here says I'm going to die, and then this doctor over here says, well, no, you're not going to die. You just need to do this. I think a lot of people have given up.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are just like, fine, you guys go make up your minds, and I'm going to live my life.
Exactly. And then, again, I have to emphasize, the fast food industry is a huge industry worldwide.
Yes.
So it's not easy to say, I'm not going to eat McDonald's or whatever it is, when you see the signs and the advertisement everywhere you go.
Right.
And I'm just picking on McDonald's just because they're the biggest. But
right.
Coca-Cola and all this. So to me, you're kind of caught in, you see all these commercials, you get all these messages, but yet people are telling you, yeah, but you're not healthy.
Right, and really what it boils down to, in my view, is it all comes down to personal decisions.
Yeah. It
all comes down to what can I do to be the healthiest me, and that's something that everybody's got to figure out. It's you can put general guidelines out there, but people have to find out. Now, it's the most important thing is to get them information on what is healthy, and then people can adapt their lifestyles accordingly. But if you've got, this marketing research group trying to put out the message that, oh, well, follow Atkins, or you've got this group over here saying, no, you just need to take this pill or have this surgery, and people are looking, because of their schedules and their lifestyles, they're looking for an easy way to take care of the problem. People aren't ignoring the problem despite what different groups are saying.
Yeah.
People know, generally speaking, if they don't feel good. Whether or not, whatever they happen to weigh, people know whether they feel good. People know whether they're healthy or not. And I think it's a disservice to the public when people talk, well, you just don't know that you're overweight. Excuse me?
Well, that's another point I made, is that, in the NPR interview I did, that if you're having headaches, which that was happening to me, came to find out what I was eating was causing these headaches. So it goes back to what you're saying. It's how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're sluggish in the afternoon, you know, chances are it may have something to do with what you're eating.
Right, and one thing that was pointed out in research not too long ago, and I'm really terrible about this, get some sleep.
Yeah.
There's you know, too many of us are on crazy schedules.
Yeah.
And myself included.
Yeah,
and,
it's hard.
And
Get 8 hours, isn't it?
I can't. I can't. I'm doing good to do 5 or 6.
Me too. I wake up in the middle of the night. You know,
well, and people have to balance between, 8 to 12 hour work days and then having family, and then, I get kids up in the morning to get to school, and, you've got your responsibilities.
That's right.
And so, I mean, some people are just trying to, make an honest living and do their best by their family. And traditional rules tell us you put yourself last, you put your kids first.
That's right.
At the same time, at some point, if you don't get enough rest, then it's going to catch up with you. And that's kind of a common sense thing. But at the same time, it's something I had to learn the hard way. If you don't treat yourself right, you are going to pay for it.
Exactly right. And sleep is so crucial.
Mm-hmm.
And, somebody pointed out to me something very basic. Just drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
How many of us really neglect to drink water throughout the day?
Oh, yeah.
And that helps keep us feeling better, our skin better and so forth. But, I know I've gone days where I've just drank soda or juice.
Right, and it catches up with you.
Exactly.
It definitely can. Yeah, I've had to start doing, water wherever I go too, because you don't think about it till you don't have it.
Exactly.
And then suddenly you're having problems, and you're like, oh, have I had anything to drink in like 14 hours?
Right, exactly.
Oh, I haven't.
The caffeine.
Yeah.
I know out here in California, Starbucks, and you just grab a quick mocha or whatever it is, and
Right, and I love coffee myself. I've actually got a mug in front of me, but I've also got a bottle of water in front of me.
Yeah.
And that's a habit I had to develop just within the last few years, because some people don't even know coffee dehydrates you.
It's exactly right.
And some sodas dehydrate you.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of educating the public to do, and that's where I feel that we do have a kinship, because our whole organization's point is to try and educate the public about being healthier and self-acceptance and respect, fitness, health, and your book is trying to reach everybody, but it's important to be able to focus in on the African American and the Latino community, because they're generally underrepresented in the media.
Exactly, and also the point I made too is that access to quality medical care is lacking in many of our the communities of color, and to me that's very important.
Absolutely.
That you're able to get a checkup.
Right.
So a doctor can tell you you may be a borderline diabetic. You need to change what you're eating or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But a lot of us get our medical care through emergency rooms, or we go months and months or years without getting any kind of quality medical care until our bodies finally break down.
Exactly, and sometimes in those cases, tragically, it's almost too late to do anything, and sometimes too late to do anything. So, people definitely need to get, they need to get checked. They need to take care of things early on. It's sort of like cancer. You can't come into cancer late in the game and expect positive results.
Right, and also when I say medical care, I mean emotional and mental health as well.
Absolutely.
I think that we need more accessibility to mental health counseling, group therapy in the communities. I mentioned 12-step programs. Those are free. I think those are vital. For people that don't have access to regular mental health counseling.
Right, and I think that it was also very good that you touched on teasing, because that's one element of a lot of people blow off fat discrimination because they think, fat discrimination. Well, you're fat, someone says something to you so you can lose weight. Don't get offended,
Yeah.
And they're not looking at the what it's actually like to be teased from basically the moment you get into school, sometimes even before then, all the way up until you get to college and the professional level. People don't look at the cumulative damage that's done, and the fact that, as you pointed out within your book, that it happens within the family too.
Yes.
And so you literally can't escape sometimes.
People feel it's okay to comment on somebody else's weight or how big they are. They think there's no repercussions to that. And the point I'm trying to make is, yes, there can be. And it's not okay to tease a child, no matter who you are, or no matter what they look like.
Right. And I also found it interesting that you touch on the fact that, just for a second going back to the medical care, that sometimes there is a racism element to it,
yes.
and that there's also internalized racism.
Yes.
And so, I think it's, again, as I said in the beginning, I think it's good just to talk about these things.
That's right.
It needs to be brought out of the attic and brought into the public to actually know what we're dealing with.
Well, it's about awareness. It's about awareness so that we're not always in the position where we're reacting to things.
Right.
And we can be proactive, for certain things as well.
Definitely. Well, Robyn, it's been a joy to speak with you about this.
Thank you so much for calling me.
Well, it's my pleasure, and definitely want people to, to check out Hungry for More. Now, I do want to let people know that in reading it, there's a whole lot of the medical scare side of it, and so I don't want people to be discouraged from reading, because sometimes the people in the fat acceptance community, we hear that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hear that all the time, and it's sort of like, okay, let's in one ear, out the other, but there's so much good material in your book, and so much that can be helpful to people. I want to encourage people to read it.
Well, thank you very much.